What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Rob, and in today's video we're going to be going over lists, segments, campaigns, and everything you need to know to get started with email marketing in Klaviyo so you can send out engaging campaigns that are bringing in 20 to 30% revenue for your Klaviyo and your Shopify account. So let's get started. Before we get started, make sure that you leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below your favorite type of campaign to send out. So first, I want to start off talking about the difference between a flow and a campaign. A flow, simply put, is an automation of emails that is triggered by a behavior that your customer takes on your Shopify or e-commerce store. These will be a sequence of emails that send out on autopilot. And a campaign is only a one-time send to your email list. Now, there are a variety of different types of campaigns that you can send out to your email list. You can send out a product launch, a promotional sale. You could send out a holiday email. You could send out, some brand updates. You could send out educational products and even win back opportunities if you haven't engaged with a subscriber within a certain period. Now, the main goal of a campaign is to engage with your subscribers and eventually get them to make a purchase or repeat purchase. First, we're going to want to segment our list, and there are a ton of strategies that you can use on how you segment your list, and depending on the size of your subscriber list, it will determine, how segmented that you get. But one thing to be sure of is to always send to engaged subscribers. Never send a whole blast email to everyone on your email list because that will hurt your deliverability and you might end up in spam in the future. So like I said, depending on the size of your email list, you'll want to send to a variety of different segments. For example, say your brand has around 10,000 email list subscribers, you'll probably want to send to like a 90-day, 60-day, and a 30-day engage group, as well as a couple of VIP groups. But since you only have around 10,000 or less subscribers, it doesn't make sense to get highly segmented, because if you were just sending to a group that only has 50 people within that segment, it doesn't make sense for your time to go and create a whole email specialized just towards those 50 people. You can probably do a better job if you're sending to a bigger audience that's still somewhat segmented to get a return on your time and your investment. Now, let's say that your brand has more than 10K subscribers, maybe that has around 15 to 20K subscribers. Now, this is where we can get very segmented and speak directly to each customer within their journey. So let's say someone's purchased once and we want to turn them into a repeat purchaser. We'll directly, have our messaging speak towards them to push them over the edge to purchase once again. But you'll still want to include, your 90-day, 30-day, and 60-day engaged segments. But your VIP segments will become a lot more segmented. So you can break it down to potential buyers, nearly theirs, high rollers, things like that. And we'll get into that more in the video, and I'll go into Klaviyo and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Without further ado, let's hop right into the computer and I'll show you exactly how to set up these flows depending on your brand size. So we'll go over if you have a list that's less than 10,000 or less subscribers, or something a little bit more. And this is just a starting point. You can get very segmented and it'll be different depending on your brand and maybe your loyalty program that you have set up, if you do have one set up. But this will all depend on the size of your brand and kind of how your sales cycle works. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. So if you have a subscriber list that is around 15 to 10K or less, these are going to be the main segments that you're going to want to set up. There are a ton other that you can set up, but I'm just going to go over the ones to start sending to your engaged subscribers. So let's get right into it. So what you're going to want to do, and this is going to be how you set it up. So what you're going to want to do is log into your Klaviyo account, obviously. You want to select list and segments on the left hand side. And the first one that we're going to set up is going to be our 30-day engaged subscriber. So these are people who have either opened or clicked an email that you sent to them in the past 30 days. So what we're going to want to do is just go create segment, and then we'll want to select segment. And we'll just name this 30-day engaged. Okay, and then for the conditions, we're going to do what someone has done, and the metric is going to be opened an email at least once in the last 30 days. And then we're going to add an or. This is going to do what someone has done, and this is going to be clicked an email at least once in the last 30 days. The reason that we add the or is sometimes the tracking might not catch that opened email or even the clicked email. So if we have both of them on there, we can make sure that these subscribers are actively engaging. So from there, what we'll want to do is just create that segment. and we're good to go. This is just a demo account, so there won't be any profiles in here, but you get the gist of it. So let's go ahead and create a new segment. So go back to list and segments. So this is gonna be a 60-day engage. So it's gonna be the exact same setup, except we are just changing the in the last 30 days to in the last 60 days. Now I do want to cut here and say, if you know the typical sales cycle of your product, what maybe someone purchases every 2 weeks and you have a really short sales cycle, then maybe you can shorten this up to 14-day engaged list. Depending on your brand and kind of the sales cycle, this is kind of where you play with it. But this is just a general overview, and it's always good just to have these general ones set up so that you can be constantly engaging with people who are engaged with your email list. And we'll go back to our segments. Then we'll go create list or segment for the 90-day engaged, and we'll select segment again. 90-day engaged, and this can be the exact same thing. Clicked at least once in the last 90 days. Or clicked at least once. I meant open in the first one, but you know what? You get the gist. The last 90 days. So there we go. So we got 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. If you're just starting out, this is who you're going to want to target to. So if you have a list less than 10,000 subscribers, you're going to want to base your first, before you have any data, at least you want to use these lists to at least get some data coming in. And then as your list grows and you get more data about your customer and what kind of behaviors they take, what kind of messaging they like, then you can become more segmented. You might want to have a win back opportunity, or you might want to turn a potential purchaser or a potential buyer into a buyer, or you want a one-time buyer into a buyer, things like that. You can start getting more segmented. But if you're just starting out, these are the top 3 that I recommend to just get started. I do have one more, and it's our VIP. So maybe you're just getting started, but you already have people who have bought your product, and you want to put them in a specific VIP. Maybe you want to incentivize them to buy more, or give them a reward for being such a loyal customer to your brand. So I'll show you exactly how to set up a basic VIP segment, and we will name this VIP. And with the VIP, you can do it a couple ways. You could do maybe they purchased 3 times over all time, or you can do 3 times in the last, or you do like maybe they purchased twice in the last 30 days or 60 days, depending on your sales cycle and what you want to classify as a VIP. You can change it. I'll show you how to set up a basic one, but it all depends on what you want to classify as someone as a VIP. I can't tell you who to classify as a VIP. I can just give you the basic guidelines and how to set it up. But it all depends on your brand and the sales cycle, and how often people are purchasing from your brand and what you qualify as a VIP. But this is kind of how you would set it up. So you do what someone has done, and you can either do, this is cool, you could either do place an order. So you could do someone has placed an order, maybe we go equals, maybe to be a VIP it has to be at least 3 times, and you just if they've placed it 3 times, you could do it overall, or you could even do it they place it three times in the last maybe 180 days. You can play around with these things. It all depends on your brand. I can't tell you specifically what to put in here because it might not work for your brand. So you can also, like I said, you can also do placed order, but you could also do revenue. Since my Shopify store, this is just a demo account, has 0 revenue, it won't show up, but usually it'll show up here, and you can add they've made revenue is over $250, and it makes them a VIP. So you can play around with placed order or revenue. It just depends. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just stick with placed order for now. What you also want to add is you want to make sure that you're sending your VIPs to people who is not suppressed. So if they're suppressed, you don't want to send them because they probably disengaged with your brand. They might have purchased 3 times in the past, but you've lost them. They could have unsubscribed, so you don't want to waste that in sending to a suppressed email. The reason we didn't have that in the earlier segments that I showed you is because they've actively opened or clicked an email, so that means they're obviously not suppressed if they're actively opening and clicking the email. But in this one, they could have placed an order and never received an email for a long time, so we want to make sure that they're not a suppressed email. So you can just go ahead and create that segment, and then that's how you create a VIP segment. Now, if you want to get a little bit more in depth, I'll show you exactly how to set up 3 other segments that you can use. Now, there are a ton of other segments, and depending on your brand structure and what you're going to classify as VIPs and things like that, it'll be different. But these are just some ideas that you can use. So let's get right into it. So this next segment is going to be, I call them nearly theirs. So they've shown some engagement with your brand, but they just haven't made that purchase yet. They're almost there. They've opened your emails, they've clicked on your emails, they've received a ton of your emails, they've made some actions on your website, but they haven't made that purchase. And we want to push them and turn them into purchasers. So we call them nearly theirs, and I'll show you exactly how to set that up. They're nearly there to make that purchase. So the first one that we're going to want to add is when someone has clicked an email. And you can change this. You could do maybe, let's say 3 times in the last 16. Let's do in the last 2 months. So they've clicked an email at least 3 times in the last 2 months. That means, recently they've shown a lot of interest in, making that potential purchase. Now, to even make it even cooler, we could do when someone has checkout has started at least once in the last 30 days. So, in the past month, they've been really warm. They've been super close to make that purchase, but they just didn't. This email is going to push them. Maybe it's a little discount. Maybe it's a little incentive to, hey, here's 10% off. Go ahead and make that purchase. Something like that. Play around with it, but they've shown a ton of interest. So this subscriber is going to be very warm. But we also want to add, to make sure we're not targeting everyone and people who haven't purchased, we're going to do what someone has done. And we're going to do place an order 0 times over all time. So this is someone who's never placed an order, but they've started a checkout and they've engaged with your list in the last 60 days. It's a really powerful one to get people over the edge. So throw this one into your stack and let me know how it goes. But this is the basic setup. Now the next segment that I want to create, I call them brand enthusiasts. So they're in your email list. They've placed maybe a couple orders, but they haven't spent a ton of revenue yet, or they haven't placed enough orders yet. So this is someone who's they've placed a couple orders, but you want to make sure that they keep coming back for more. So we call them brand enthusiasts. They're enthusiastic about your brand, but they'll keep purchasing if you speak to them directly. So brand enthusiast. So first thing we want to do, we want to make sure that they're in our list. And then this one we're going to want to add, maybe they've placed a couple orders. Let's say, placed order equals, let's say, they've placed, 2 orders in the last 16 weeks. This might be too long for your brand, but play around with it. So they placed at least, you want to do at least 2 orders in the last 16 weeks. Now, if my Shopify demo account had a revenue on there, we could put when someone has revenue, which it's not showing up. I'm not sure why. Pretty much, this would be revenue right here. Pretend it says revenue, and depending on what maybe 2 orders is equivalent to, or what your average order value is, and you want to maybe add more to that or add less to that. It all depends what you want to classify a brand enthusiast as. So we can do is at least, let's say 250, or we can do actually let's do is less than 250 over all time. Okay, so these are gonna be our brand enthusiasts. These are people who've, they bought a couple times for you, but they haven't spent a ton of money on your brand, and you want to get them to spend more. So they've placed 2 orders, but they've only spent less than 250. So this is someone that you want to increase the lifetime value of, to get them up to maybe a high roller, and that'll be our next segment. And let's get right into it. So this needs a metric, so we'll just delete that for now. And we'll also want to add they're not suppressed. Make sure you don't have not suppressed. Our final segment that I'm going to provide you guys today is going to be our high rollers. These are people who have placed 2 orders, just like your brand enthusiast, in the last 16 weeks, but the revenue is more than 250. So these are people who are spending a ton of money, but they haven't placed a ton of orders. So you want them to come back and place some more orders. And the goal of these campaigns is to retarget your customers and expand your LTV of your customers. So I'll show you exactly how to set up a high roller segment. What someone has done, I'm going to do placed order at least 2 times in the last 16 weeks. Boom. And then we'll also want to do this. Make sure that you have this in here, but we'll want to do what someone has done and has revenue more than. So this will be greater than, and this will be 250. So your brand enthusiasts will be greater than what your brand enthusiasts have spent over all time, or you could even do in the last 16 weeks as well, just to match it up. So this list is always changing a little bit, but make sure this is revenue. So make sure you have some revenue in your store to get this kicked in. And then what we'll also want to do is make sure that they are in our newsletter. And then we'll also want to make sure that they are not suppressed. So this is going to be our high roller. This is going to be someone who is spending bank on your store, and they are a loyal subscriber and loyal customer to your brand. So the messaging is going to be a little bit different. Maybe it's a personal reach out from the founder or something like that, where you're thanking them for the loyalty they have spent, and maybe you're giving them a little discount so they go ahead and spend a little bit more. So these are 3 segments that you can get started. Obviously, it all depends on the brand. I can say, for example, with the current brand that I'm working with now, is we're building out an entire loyalty program using this sort of setup. So there's a couple tiers to the loyalty program, and to move subscribers through these tiers, you're going to want to set up these segments like this. And I can create a loyalty tutorial on how to set up a good loyalty program within Klaviyo. It could be very beneficial, if you have that down and you want to create some sort of loyalty program for your brand. But that's for another video. But I'll see you guys back on the camera. And yep. Now, once our segments have been created, it's time to plan our strategy of attack. What I recommend doing is creating a campaign calendar. What this does is it allows you to be organized and know exactly who you're sending to and when you're sending to, and what type of campaign you're going to be sending out. Like I said, this could be an educational email, it could be a product launch, a holiday sale, a seasonal sale, anything. It can be really anything. So you want to make sure that you're organized. This will save a ton of time, and you won't ever miss a campaign that you're supposed to send out. And make sure that you're sending on a consistent basis to grow some data, so you can really pinpoint who you're really talking to. Now, if you want my own personal campaign calendar that I use for my clients, make sure that you subscribe and you message me a screenshot of you subscribing on Instagram, and I'll send you the exact template. It's a Google Sheet that you can use for your own campaign calendar, so you can be sending it on a consistent basis and that you never miss a day. So here are some tips for sending campaigns. So if you're just starting out, you want to keep the cadence low of the amount of campaigns that you send. I recommend only maybe sending once a week, so maybe 4 times a month. And then once you get some data and you understand what your customers react to, what kind of subject lines they like, what kind of content they like, you can get more you can increase that cadence and start testing a little bit more. So that's number one. Number two, do not ever blast your email list. Don't ever send to your entire email list. Some of these people are unengaged and they'll never open your email, or your email might just go straight to spam. If you start blasting out your email, one, your customers won't like it and they'll report you as spam. Two, your email deliverability will go down and other engaged customers might not even see your emails, or your VIP customers might not see your emails because it might be landing as spam. So do not blast your email. Tip number three is you're going to want to mix up the content that you're sending out. So like I said earlier, I gave some examples. You're going to want to send, either educational content, holiday email, promotional email, product launch, things like that. But don't constantly spam them with the same types of emails, especially promotions. Don't be sending promotion every week after week after week, because your customers are going to start to expect that and they'll never pay full price for your product. Finally, have fun with it. You're building a brand, and this is the most direct communication that you can have with your customer. So make sure that you're acting like a human and not like a robot sending them, a typical promotional email. Really show your own voice and your brand's voice within these campaigns, and be creative. And at the end of the day, just have a ton of fun with that. There are a ton of segments that you can implement and strategies that you can implement with campaigns and your lists and your segments, and we didn't go over them, but we'll have to save that for another video. For example, you could use an unengaged segment to use some win back opportunities, or you could use what we call a sunset unengaged, where people who haven't opened, you send them to your suppressed email list, so you keep your email list very healthy. But we'll save that for another video. With that being said, I hope you found this video insightful and it brought a lot of value to you, and now you can implement this starting today and get your campaigns off the ground and running, and you can start pulling in a ton of revenue with this. And if you want that campaign content calendar, make sure that you subscribe, screenshot it, send it to me on Instagram, and I'll send you that Google Sheet so you can have a step-by-step playbook of how we set up our campaign calendars for our clients. And finally, make sure that you like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below what kind of campaigns you've been sending out and what other videos you want to see from me. I'm having a lot of fun creating these videos, and I'm getting a lot of messages from you guys asking me to create these specific videos, and don't worry, they will be coming out soon. I've been a little bit busy, but we'll be getting them out soon. So don't worry and stay tuned for the next one.